G'day friends, welcome to today's YouTube video. My name is James, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. I've just got back from work and I have edited together my video. This is MerMay 3, the third video for the challenge this year. I didn't do the daily videos like I did last year. Didn't want to oversaturate and make problems for the algorithm, so I've put them all into multiple weekly videos, and this is the next set of the mermaids. If you follow along on Instagram, you'll have seen probably all of these at this point, so I'm just going to let you know some of the techniques and some of the thoughts behind some of them, and just talk about getting in this journal and doing the challenge. It doesn't even seem like a challenge, and obviously if you were following my Instagram, you'd know this, but I've already finished it, so it's not like, I'm not like, oh, will I, won't I? I finished it. I love to draw mermaids. I love to try lots of different things, and, you know, I'm in such a good place with, like, my creative playtime and how it all works that I wasn't even, like, stuck for any ideas. I wasn't, you know, thinking about, you know, what am I going to do to make this next one different and blah, blah, blah. It was just all very intuitive. I want to do this. And then I went and did it. And I think I was just really happy with how it all went. So not that you need the recap now in video 3, because still think we have a couple more videos to go, but just wanted to let you know that I think we talked about this last time. It's a lot about the process, a lot of working out your process and working out how to work is the wrong word, but how to play. You know, knowing the methods that you like to use, or the inspiration that you like to pull from, or the different techniques that actually feel enjoyable for you to do, or the things that you're capable at, that you're really good at. It's really good to build on all of that understanding, because you can craft a very good process for yourself. And having a good process, I think, is really key for me. It doesn't mean it looks the same every time, but I'm really in tune with my creativity. I'm really in tune with what I think I want to do, what I think I can do, what I think I'm curious to try. Like, I feel like it's not something that exists outside of me waiting to come at me. I feel like it's just all in here, kind of bubbling over whenever I sit down at the table. And I don't think I always felt that way, so it is kind of on my mind lately, because I don't know what the switch or the turning point was. I do believe ever since I started teaching art journaling and how I do all of this, I became more in tune with that process, and especially making content too, because you really do have to be able to switch it on if you're just going to make a video every week. Like, you can't just not know how you operate. You got to be in tune with what you can do and can't do. So I think kind of diving into myself that way illuminated a lot of that. And yeah, I still have to think more about it before I, you know, run my mouth on it completely, but process is really interesting. So I had written on the top of a different mermaid, Mayhem Mermaid. I was thinking about the Lady Gaga Coachella performance, and I just wanted to try drawing it. I absolutely love how she turned out. I took direct inspiration from the Abracadabra look. I know I was going to do this. I was going to do the dance for you. Like, that would help you recognize what it was. If you saw the Coachella performance of Lady Gaga, so good. So good. Really excited to see that for myself in July. And I love her little bob. I think she looks great. I love that it really worked out with the stamp that I used. I was a little bit iffy because I just thought, oh, I think I have a certain way I want this to look. And I wanted it to look quite pretty and quite, like, always unbothered. You know, I love that look. But there was just like a certain aesthetic that I wanted to go for. And I wasn't too sure at first whether this was the right stamp for it. But yeah, turned out to be the perfect stamp for it. So love that. I think she's from the Gorls set. GWORLS. There are sets of those in my Etsy store if you want to grab one of those. And I just used the red blue pencil to give it the outfit. Lots of fun fashion detailing on that. It's really hard to teach. Well, not hard. I have techniques on how to teach certain fashion detailing, like pleats or ruffles and things like that. And I've taught a couple in the past, but I think it's kind of pointless sometimes to teach those things, because people have their own personal preferences, and like, how often would you need to draw this type of ruffle? You know, if you're someone that is into, for example, Edwardian clothing, you might already know through your reference images what types of fashion that you would need to know how to draw, which wouldn't be relevant for someone who is drawing very modern things, who just wanted to draw, Converse sneakers and, you know, a tube top, like things like that. But I don't think a lot of people concern themselves with the fashion of the drawing, but because I have this interest in fashion design and fashion illustration and just fashion in general, it does show up a lot in my work. So I have taught myself over the years how to draw certain aspects of clothing that I don't think are super relevant to being, good at art journaling, obviously. But if you do draw lots of female figures and then you want to clothe them, like that is a part of the process. So I guess it's kind of always crossed my mind to teach some of it, and I've dabbled here and there, but the actual nitty gritty of knowing how to draw certain things is just, it's a lot of like going to the source, like going to a fashion illustration book or a technical illustration book for garment design and learning it there, and just learning the ones that you want to know. But anyway, moving on. This is a piece of Collage Club. Is Steve heading out? I feel like I hear Steve heading out, but he's probably trying not to disturb me while I'm making my video. This one took a lot of different versions. I think I took some of the head and I took the body from somewhere else. Did I take the tail from somewhere else? I can't remember. I didn't really want to match her to the one on the left, but I did want to pull a bit of what I liked about that one, like the paint pens, and I liked the colors that I used on that one as well. So I did kind of want it to blend into the page and make sense, but I think I was just really going over the top with the layering. Like I just went over and over and over it and tried different things everywhere. So she looks a little hectic, a little crazy in the end. I don't know. She might be my least favorite, and it's probably not good to just, list them all from best to worst, but it's all very subjective. I've heard other people say like some of the ones that I don't really like, they really liked, and then the ones that I really loved, they couldn't care less for. So, I think it is really subjective at the end of the day. It doesn't hurt my feelings if you like one or not. I generally am okay with people liking it or not liking it. I always think it's important if I like it, but I also don't have to. It's not really my goal all the time, but I think a lot of what I am motivated by, especially if I keep going on something, is I am motivated to see something that my eyes enjoy. You know what I mean? I'm motivated to get there. Doesn't always happen, but I try. Anyway, she was a lot of mixed media, and then I just had to bring the eyes back. I just feel like that's something I always enjoy working on, and this one I went way too far with the eyeballs. I just put so many layers on. I wanted to do so much, so I was really limited by what supplies I could use at that point, because it was just, even though I know some certain supplies would work on top, the paint marker was so layered, and it starts to flake when it is layered on top of itself too much. Or like some of the layers underneath aren't fully dry, and then I'll poke my pen through it, it'll be like it'll scratch through it. It's not super pleasant when you go that crazy with it. You don't need to put a lot of paint marker down when you're using it, but a lot of the time I get impatient and I bash the tip against the page and a lot of it leaks out and leaks through. So I do end up putting a heavy deposit down, and it's just bad. A lot of the issues I have are user error and impatience, which I know. I know it's my issue, but I'm probably not going to stop. That's a part of my process too. Here comes the MVP, the Posca white brush pen. I took another piece of Collage Club, one of my favorite fairies from a million years ago, and I just always liked the way that she looked, and I wanted to turn into a mermaid. I do a couple of fairy mermaids in this. Great combo. Fairy and mermaids, two of my favorite things. This was the one that I put online and said I really phoned it in with the hands, and I knew the hand looked bad, but a lot of people said that it looked like AI hands. Like all the fingers go crazy and there's like extra fingers in places. I couldn't be bothered. There, if I really had to, I would just pull a reference and I would, slow down and give it a go. But that's what I say. Sometimes I don't challenge myself to do it. Like it's just enjoying it. It's enjoying it, and I can get over looking at the hand because I typically don't. I take the image in as a whole. Most people do. You'll take the whole image in, and you'll kind of zoom in on the things that you like, or you'll just process it as a whole image. You know, I rarely go back through what I do and look for the details. And even when I do, it kind of surprises me sometimes that I don't even pick up that a lot of the faces I do have construction lines through them, because I just blank them out in my mind. They're just not there. But they really are. They really are, and you can see them. So maybe I just have like a fully delusional outlook on what I'm doing. But it's fun. I do enjoy it. So she is one of my faves. Loved her. Tried to pull some of the vining into her tail, and it was mostly just ink. I was going to do a whole cross-hatching type ink style and really go to town and draw every single scale on her tail scale. But I wanted to put some color there because you've got that other page over there. It's just, I don't know. I just really wanted to put some color down. But then I got stuck. I was like, I don't know if I want to color the whole thing in. So I just blushed everything with this pink. I want to say it's a Tombow marker. It's not. I think it's Lyra. It's much like a Tombow marker. Really long, thin barrel, double-ended, 2 different tips. I think the other tip is a smaller brush pen. I want to say, no, maybe it's a bullet one. I have it right here. I could just grab it. It's a bullet tip. So this one really is like a Tombow. It's not as tall as a Tombow, so if you're someone that likes the idea of those, but you don't like how they don't fit into a pencil case, it is the Lyra Aqua Brush Duo. I got those from Art Snacks a long time ago. The next mermaid I did on this stark white page. You know the different pages, even if they're blank, they just feel different. Like I've drawn... I'll get to this in a second, but the ones that I did on the paper pads, 2 different experiences completely, and they do kind of make me draw a little bit differently. So on this, I think the page being so stark white was just like, oh, it felt like a lot more intimidating, and I felt like I was getting a lot of things wrong, so I started sketching and etching it all away. You know, obviously setting my expectations to 0. And then I wanted to put some watercolor on it just to kind of zhuzh it up a bit, but drawing in pencil on the other page that was just off-white, that it's not, I wouldn't even say it's cream, it's more of an off-white, and this inked mermaid I'm doing is on a very smooth cardstock. The other page is kind of like a sketch paper. You know, I think I just really preferred at this point drawing with pencil on a sketch paper that's kind of off-white. I get a lot more dexterity. I don't want to say that word. I have a lot more control over my line when there's some, it's not even tooth, drag to the paper. So using a pen, like a very fine pen on a very smooth paper, it's hard to get that resistance in the stroke that you're putting down on the page. And if you can get a little bit of that, usually you have more control over your instrument. So that's why anything that's got like a little bit more tooth to it, or a pencil that it already has some more traction to it, that resistance in the line, I always liken it to like if you take a, you know, a stylus and you draw on a glass screen, you just slip and slide everywhere. It's slippery, it's really difficult to control it. You feel like you're kind of white knuckling it to get control over the wrist, but then, you know, you take a crayon and you put it over some really heavy textured, you know, cold pressed watercolor cardstock, and it just feels like an easier draw. There is a lot of that happens when you start mixing your supplies and you start mixing your papers. So be aware that, you know, there's not one thing that's going to work better for anybody else, but if you haven't tried switching it up a little bit, I would encourage you to try switching up drawing straight in pen or drawing straight in pencil, or even trying different sizes of pens and pencils, and then also drawing on a very smooth paper, a very textured paper, draw on an off-white, draw on a craft cardstock or some light, like toned paper. That can also be really fun. Just try drawing kind of the same thing in a bunch of different places. You might start to see that you enjoy the results on one, and maybe you just haven't found that out yet, because I didn't have all the papers to try in the beginning, and I didn't really, I will say I didn't really believe a lot of people when they said those things. I was like, I think they're just trying to get me to buy more things, because usually it was people that were selling things saying that. But since I'm not trying to sell you pens or paper, hopefully you can trust my opinion there. It's good to try some other things. So here is a very mixed media piece. I love how she turned out, but it was very touch and go with all of this mixed media as well. I got out those old deco brush markers. I have always really liked these, but they're only really good for small illustrations. So I use them for a lot of detailing on here. And if they had a pump, like a pump action, like the Posca brush markers, I think they'd be great. But because they don't, it's just really hard to get them going and to shake them up and get they're beautiful colors. They're stored beautifully, but I just think I wouldn't reinvest in those. So we won't talk too much about those, but I use them here and there for little bits and pieces. There was a lot of mixed media going on, so I was just kind of taking it as it happened. This piece was already in the book, so I'm using it, you know, kind of as my inspiration. And I didn't do a mermaid tail or anything. This is just her, just the face. And I wanted to just really focus on the hair and doing some really cool makeup and, you know, colors on the face. I just thought it'd be really, I don't know, really fun and kind of experimental. I really got my fingers in there and smudged out all the paint. That felt like old times. Some gouache as well, just to, you know, try everything. The picture itself was actually a, what's it called? Like a face chart that I believe I think it's either a blend or it's straight up Stella. Or it might be a MAC face chart mixed with Stella's face as well. Because we were doing some projects years ago when we both had YouTube channels, and I did this face chart for her. I don't know if she had to create the makeup, like recreate the look, or if I just did it for a thing. I really can't remember. But anyway, I had the face chart, so I just put it in there. And yeah, I wanted to rework it. But it's still Stella. I can still see Stella in there. So that feels really nice and personal. I really love how all of it came together in the end. It's one of those ones where if you kind of blur your eye a little bit, see, I went cross-eyed for a second. If you blur your eye a little bit, it almost looks a bit real, but it's like kind of hyper real, because the proportions of the face are realistically like Stella's face, but obviously it's very two-dimensional and, you know, bright poppy colors. So I don't know, kind of blur your eyes when this one's all done and have a look at it then. It looks really nice. You can tell people that when you're showing them your journals. You'd be like, if you blur your eyes, it looks really good. That's a tip. That's a top tip if you want to be really impressive. But no, I really like how the eyes specifically came out, and I just think the blue of the lips and the hair and everything, it just all looked really, really pretty. The overall effect, I think, was really worth all the effort, because at the beginning I just thought I was going to throw a few little bits on. This one took some of the longest out of all the mermaids that I did, and I think it's just that I wanted to keep adding and adding and adding and adding, and then I wanted to clean up a little bit here, and then I wanted to clean up a little bit there. This, I think, might be the first time I got out the black Posca brush marker as well. It's so nice. I love the black and the white. I did link the white maybe last time. I linked it in some video. But I mean, the black is really bold, so maybe it might scare a few people, but the white especially, like, I really do think a lot of people would benefit from having it. If you're a mixed media type art journaler, if you love to layer, you love to work with ephemera over the top of it, you love to draw on top of it or kind of personalize it. You know, even if it's something as simple as reworking an eye on a piece of collage, just having that ability to quickly, you know, and layer white matte paint is, I would say, it's a game changer, but I had one of those years ago and I hadn't picked one up for a long time. I actually thought I didn't have one, and I've been on a like low buy, no buy, so I wasn't trying to pick up anything new. And in all honesty, I just don't think I work super mixed media like I used to. I do when I teach, but in my kind of everyday, it's, you know, since I've moved everything, I redid the studio a little bit. Excuse me. I need to have a little bit of drink. I have become a little bit more mixed media again. But, you know, my day-to-day journaling needs, I don't really need the whole art setup or the paints and everything. I would love it if I could just have everything out. Like, I know I have a studio space, but because I do content and there's a lot of like business side of it and I have to ship things out, like I can't just keep a desk completely set up for creating. I do have to factor in all the other things it needs to be used for. But if I just had like a big open space, I would just have a desk set up with all the paints and everything everywhere, just able to use at every point. Oh, here. So this was exactly what I did on the page right. I wanted to do it again on page left. Had such a great time doing it the first time, wanted to do it again. So I'd already ghost stamped those images, but if you look closely on that one on the right, the most right mermaid, that's where it says Mayhem Mermaid on her crown. Just to remind myself to do the Lady Gaga one. So this one I didn't know if I was going to do one or two. I ended up doing two, just like the first one. Again, using that white brush marker to kind of lightly fade a lot of those lines away that I didn't really need. And then using the red-blue pencil to draw it all together. The difference here is that paper on the right, both are notepads. The paper on the right is thinner, and that I stamped on is thinner. It's kind of off-white again, like a little bit cream. And I believe there might be a pattern on it, or maybe it's the back of a pattern notepad. It's quite flimsy, cheap note paper. You would think like, oh, it's not something I really want to do art with, right? That's obviously why I was using it to test pens and do scribble with. But I had such a great time drawing on that. Then transfer it over to this one. It's not like I didn't have a good time drawing this, I did, but I noticed the difference. And the page itself, like even it being that light blue, it was kind of a toned paper. It was very smooth, and even just that, like that little difference of it being very smooth made me feel like this drawing had to be cleaner. Like, I don't know, the pencil strokes would just seemed more obvious. I felt like on the cheaper paper, they kind of blurred a little bit. This could all just be placebo, but I know what I felt when I did it. And for some reason, I felt like it was more obvious if things were a little off on this one. So I'm going to blame the paper. It could be a myriad of different things, but if you look at the end, the mermaids on the left are significantly more clean than the mermaids on the right. But I think if I had to pick two, I prefer the ones on the right. And it's always just a nice reminder that we don't need, especially since I've suggested that you try different papers, you don't need expensive things. Like sometimes my preference is a cheaper alternative. There are some things I don't like the cheaper alternative of. I don't like cheaper watercolors. I just find it difficult to get a good result. Don't love cheaper markers. I find that difficult to get a good result. Cheap pens sometimes skip or like leave a lot of ink out there. So yes, there are some things that I don't like them being cheap. But I have had a good time with cheap paintbrushes and acrylic, cheap acrylic. I use cheap acrylic. Cheap lead pencils. Love a cheap lead pencil. Oftentimes, because I'm so heavy-handed, they're the only things that don't leave a mark on the page because they're cheap. So when I need to erase them, they fully erase. And you know, these aren't like super, super cheap things, but I mean cheap by comparison. I know a lot of people watching are probably familiar with some very expensive art supplies. You might even have a little collection yourself, just like me. But not everyone has that, and I think, you know, you're always kind of maybe wanting some of those things, and it's easy to covet the things that you think might give you a better result, but take it from someone who's used a lot of different things. You know, more expensive doesn't always mean a better result. It might be easier to get from point A to point B. Maybe the color variety might be something different. Like I think there are a lot of pros to more expensive things, don't get me wrong. But they can also change the process. You know, if you're someone that got really used to using a cheap set of acrylics and they work a certain way, like maybe they're a bit sheer when you water them down, and you've gotten used to really layering them over the top of each other, creating these really beautifully, you know, richly layered pieces with lots of transparency. As soon as you use a more richly pigmented, more expensive acrylic, suddenly you're losing some of that transparency. It might actually affect the results that you could typically create. So some people become very, very good at using cheap things. When you look at those artists that use biros, like a ballpoint pen, a big ballpoint pen to sketch out entire portraits. I mean, that's an extreme version of that. But some people do get very resourceful and don't like the change either. So, you know, as many beautiful pencils as I have, and I do use all of them, I will a lot of the time gravitate towards can you hear the cat? Steve's obviously got a door shut and he can't get in. He only meows like that for Steve when he's got the door shut. Oh, I think he's probably in the shower. He doesn't want me to hear it. Oliver, come here. Come here. Poor thing. He never meows and then he starts crying. It's so sad. But it's just for Steve. He's like attached at the hip to poor Steve. Oliver, come here. Oh yeah, I reach for a Ticonderoga. Number 2. Like a regular, apparently in the States, like a very generic school pencil. Can you see how much the light has gone? It's like very almost gone. I just love this time of night. This is my favorite time of the day, actually, this twilight. I love, is it twilight? Dusk. I love being at Southwest Rocks when the sun is setting, or Hawaii. I saw Lilo and Stitch. I saw Lilo and Stitch, the live action last night. Loved it. Thought it was so great. I don't think I'll go back to the movies to see it. It's not like a Little Mermaid where I have to see it 5 times, but I will watch it again when it comes out on Disney Plus, and I'll probably get the DVD as well. Great family movie. I mean, I really do like the original Lilo and Stitch as well, and I think this was just a great live action version of that. So if you're into that, I had a great time. This mermaid is a Hirono. Hirono? He is a Pop Mart figurine, and I have a lot of these Pop Mart bags because Steve got obsessed and addicted to these Pop Marts, and we have them all over our house. They're really cute. I actually can't complain about it. I love them, but the Hirono characters especially, I just think they're so cute, and I have done some like drawings of them myself, just some more like custom versions of them, and I've actually done a mermaid one, but for this one I wanted to use the paper bag that it come in, just the printed graphic on the front, and I wanted to see if I could translate it into a mermaid, and it just kind of worked out that it seemed like he was wearing a jellyfish hat and he was holding a jellyfish. So it's a very simple illustration, but I used those deco brush markers to, just kind of colorize it a little bit. Since they're very sheer, it's actually a great way to color something that's already drawn or already printed. You can see here, it's like the old photos that they used to color, make from black and white into color. It's very much that. So, and you can layer it up, and honestly, I mean, they are sheer. Like you won't be able to layer them up too much to get rid of the background, but just enough to kind of work with a new surface and still see the line work underneath. It is a technique I use a lot, I think. It's just kind of veiling over the top. This is one of the first techniques I really learned in mixed media, and I don't know if it was a mistake or if I was trying to do something that I was watching on YouTube, but I very specifically remember, I think it's because I had a sponge and I was using Dylusion's paints, and I would see them use their baby wipe. Diane would use a baby wipe over the page to put the paint down everywhere, and I think I was using some kind of sponge, and I was doing it too, and I realized I had some stuff printed on the page. I had done it over the top, and it put the color deposit down, but I could still see all the picture underneath. It was a digi-stamp or something, probably. So then I decided to do that with magazine images, and I would just kind of veil the color. I think that's what I called it, like veiling it over the top, because I remember talking about it really early days when I was starting to get online and talk to other people about art journaling. Who remembers that? So I wanted to, I want to use that technique a lot, because I just think it's kind of like it levels it out. You know what I mean? Like if you're already working with something, I just kind of want to start with a clean slate, but I still want to use it. So I can't a lot of the time just work with what's already there and kind of manipulate. I just want to glaze over the top and then pick it back up. You know what I mean? Like pick out all the things that I want. This one is kind of what I just said, like, just working with what's already there. This was a Daisy Style Workshop image that I had already kind of painted, because it was abandoned. Like I wasn't going to use it for anything, but I painted it, and then I kind of repainted it with this gouache, and it was all very messy and very just blotchy color everywhere. But I went over it with that black Pentel brush pen and some line work with a fine liner, and it came together so well. It looks so graphic. I think this was such a simple but really effective mermaid, and I just love that she was just an abandoned piece of ephemera. She's one of my favorites too, actually. just for how effective it is. Anyway, that brings us to the last 10 seconds of this video. Thank you so much for joining me for MerMay Week 3. Hope you're having a wonderful time yourself, and I'll see you again next week. Bye.
All I know is I need to be